Hiya friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. One of the most frequent questions that I get and comments that are left on some of my more recent videos kind of goes like this. I live in a small apartment, I live in a small house, I live in a studio apartment, and while I think it's a good idea to start stocking up with preps, I don't have any place to put them. So what I want to cover today are the top 5 ideas that I've got for maximizing storage space in your small living area. So stick around. All right, so we'll start with number 1. Clean it out. Take a good look at where you're currently storing your stuff in your pantry, in your kitchen cabinets, in your under sink areas and all that, and go through it. Clean it out. Get rid of stuff that you're not using. Take a good hard look at what's in your pantry, canned goods and stuff like that. Look for stuff that's outdated, that's got damaged packaging, where the cans are dented, stuff like that, and get those out of there. Just toss them in the trash, because a lot of times they just won't be any good. And if you're not using them right now, whatever it may be that's taking up space, extra pots and pans, extra dishes, cups and saucers and plates, and you name it, take a look at it, say, when was the last time I used this? And if it's been more than 12 to 18 months, pack it up and donate it. Give it to your local Goodwill, the Salvation Army, some worthy cause that can pass it along to somebody who may be able to really use it. And then take inventory of what you've got and what space you do have and put a plan together to maximize your preps in the space that you have. So number 2, look up. Now what I mean by that is that you may have storage areas already available to you. And I understand that living in an apartment, in a studio place where obviously you're renting, that the owners are not going to want you doing extensive remodeling, building in shelving and all that kind of stuff. That's probably taboo. But if you can, and you have some creativeness in your psyche, you may be able to erect temporary shelving that's sturdy enough to hold things over your windows, over the toilet area in your bathroom. So that area behind the toilet usually goes from the back of the toilet all the way up to the ceiling. And I've used those, you can pick them up at lots of different bathroom, Bed Bath & Beyond and Wayfair and places like that, where you use, where they sell these units that are shelving units, and they've got kind of spring-loaded supports on either side, and you can set it so that it straddles the back of the commode and goes up to the ceiling, and you can put that in there. You can store all kinds of extra stuff in there and free up some other room. If you can use that space, free up some other room that may be even more beneficial for holding stuff that you really do need. So you may have those spaces over your windows, over your commode, over your ceiling perimeters. There may be spaces there, the top of your refrigerator, over your sink, and on top of your cabinets in your kitchen or in your bathroom. You may have space to actually utilize to put stuff that you're going to need to prep for. So, number 3. Number 3, look down. So by looking down, what I mean is underneath your bed, if you've got a standard, regular kind of a bed that's on a steel frame with those little wheels, you've got space in there, like this much, that you can actually utilize. You can put clothes in there. You can put, pick up those little plastic bins and totes and stuff like that from your big box stores. Find them in rummage sales, that kind of a thing. Load them up with canned goods. Load them up with ramen noodles. Load them up with extra food that you normally use. Put them in those plastic bins. Slide them under your beds. Slide them under furniture, slide them behind furniture. So by looking down, you're going to find quite a lot of space that you may not be thinking about. So if you've got a bed like that, that's great. If you want to create a platform bed where you can set your bed a little bit higher than normal and use a whole big space underneath there, you can rig that stuff up. And I'd suggest Google searching platform bed and see what kind of ideas may be able to pop into your head that's practical for you in your limited space, that can give you extra storage space for your preps. Drawers that pull out, you may be able to construct those inside existing cabinets. So you get the drawer that pulls out, you may be able to get a little bit more utilization in there in certain under sink cabinets and stuff like that, where especially like in corners, that space in the far corners kind of gets lost sometimes. And if you can rig up a pull-out drawer in there somehow, you may be able to store quite a lot of extra stuff in those kinds of spaces. So look up, look down, and then look inside. Look inside your closet and see the space below where your shirts are, below where your trousers are, below where your skirts are, below where your blouses are, and there's some space from the bottom of those clothing items down to the bottom. If you can rig up shelves, boxes, good sturdy boxes, you can store quite a lot of stuff underneath there and still not lose the utility of the closet. Most closets that I've seen in apartments and in houses and stuff like that generally have a shelf up on top. Oftentimes that's enough space where you can store all kinds of extra stuff up there. It may be hard to reach, you may need a step stool to get up to the top part of that, but those are the kind of spaces inside your closets that really can help. The other thing that you can really try to imagine and use your imagination is if you were to able to find a set of shelving units, and I saw one on a local posting around in this area where a guy was giving away 2 4-shelf units that were about 3.5, 4 feet tall, about a foot deep, had maybe 3 or 4 shelves on them. They were fairly well constructed, but you could slide, and he was giving them away. I mean, it was like, come and get them, I'll put them out on my curb. You can slide those in to your closet off maybe on one end or the other end, or even right in the middle, and you'll have 3 or 4 shelves right there that you can load up with your preps. Now, I've talked about what to prep for in previous videos. What I'm concentrating on in this one is how to store it and where you can put it. So, under stairways. Now, a lot of places box in the staircase that goes upstairs or downstairs. If you've got an apartment or a small house that does that, look for that kind of a space underneath there, and if you can get to it, you've got ample storage space underneath those steps. The steps that go down to our basement garage, have quite a lot of space in there, and I've got all kinds of stuff stored in there. Now, stuff that I don't normally get to, but Christmas lights and stuff like that where I only need to get to them maybe once a year, that's where they go, so that I can use the space that they would take up elsewhere for stuff that I use on a regular daily basis. So that's part of the plan. So we've looked up, we've looked down, we've looked inside, and now we're going to talk about the great disguise. I know, folks, and I've done it myself, where you can take the 5-gallon plastic buckets, fill them with the foodstuffs that you want to prep for, whether it's ramen noodles or rice or beans or whatever. Got them all sealed up the way you want. You put them in those 5-gallon jugs, and a lot of the stuff that you can order that's freeze-dried foods from Wise Foods and different places like that, they come in kind of square buckets that are very stackable. So if you can get 2 of them together, stack them just that high, put 4 of them together and stack them that high, you can disguise that as an end table. Put a small piece of wood on top, a piece of plywood, something like that. Drape it with a drape, an old curtain, a bed sheet that you're not using anymore. Drape it out of there, stick a lamp on it, and you've got an end table. And underneath that, the 4 legs are really 4 5-gallon buckets full of food storage. So use the great disguise whenever you can. End tables, coffee tables, that kind of stuff really can come in handy. And a few bonus ideas on top. So let's wrap this up with these ideas. Suitcases. You can use your empty suitcases to store all kinds of stuff. They fit nicely inside your closet. You can fill them up with anything you want. Just make sure that it's properly sealed and you remember what's in there. If you need to use your suitcase because you got to go on a trip somewhere, go on vacation, you take the stuff out, leave it out until you get back, put it back in the suitcase, and you got it. Stackable shelving. Those wire frame things that you see in the home organization sections at the big box stores, they can come in very, very handy. They make them in all different kinds of configurations. They're really not all that expensive, but they're the kind of things that you can use to store aluminum foil and wax paper and stuff, and they mount on the inside of the door under your sink cabinet or underneath one of your kitchen cabinets behind that door in there. So if you've got enough little bit of space in there, one of those little wire racks can free up quite a lot of drawer space by putting the aluminum foil in one of those wire racks. I've even seen, and thankfully, I guess unthankfully, I don't know, my refrigerator fits with only this much room between that and the wall that it sets against. But I have seen where there's spaces that can be 5 inches, 6 inches between the refrigerator and the wall that it sits against. And there are a multitude of contraptions that you can pick up at different places, Wayfair, Bed Bath & Beyond, IKEA, even the big box stores may have stuff like that, where you've got kind of a rolling shelving unit that you can slide into that little skinny 6-inch section between your fridge and the wall that you can use to store canned goods or whatever you need to put in there. So there's some space that you can readily utilize for your preps. When my dad had his shop in the basement of the house that I grew up in, he had a rack that went across over the top of his workbench, and underneath that shelf that went across over his workbench, on top of the shelf, he had power tools and you name it, stuff up on top in boxes, or just, you know, a circular saw or whatever sitting up on top. But underneath, he took small ball jars, the pint size, even half pint size, and put all the screws and the nails and all that kind of stuff that he had, sorted them, and attached the lids to the underneath of that shelving unit and screwed them in there. Well, because they're glass, you can see into it and say, oh, those are 2-inch screws. That's what I need. Take that down. You've got right there. You put it back up, screw it right back in. You're good to go. So those are some bonus ideas on top of that that you can use to store those preps that you're going to really need when the S hits the fan. And like I said in the last video, I think it's going to happen this winter. So time to get ready. Let's get her done. As Yoda used to say, there is no try, just do. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.